A country does not lose its scientists all at once. It loses them one grant, one visa, one lab, one family decision at a time.
Yeah, it really is a slow, quiet bleed.
Exactly. Welcome to this Science Candy deep dive from Claire and Horatio. Today we are unpacking a really massive, kind of hidden shift happening in the global scientific landscape.
Right, because based on this giant stack of recent reports and policy briefs we have, the U.S. scientific ecosystem is currently facing this massive stress test.
It really is. I mean, for decades, the U.S. became this absolute global superpower by attracting the best talent, right?
Yeah.
And funding long-term research. We were the unquestioned destination for ambitious minds.
Oh, absolutely.
But our mission today is to explore this new tension.
Sure.
Because recent political volatility, massive budget cuts, and really tough visa hurdles are suddenly making other nations look like much safer bets for these researchers.
Right, and just to set the ground rules here before we really get into it, we are looking at this through a strictly impartial lens.
Yeah, that's crucial.
Because the sources we have, they cover some highly charged political developments, from federal workforce cuts to state-level legislation. But we aren't here to take political sides. We're looking past the politics to examine the actual machinery of discovery.
Right, like how it actually works on the ground.
Exactly. We're investigating how complex scientific ecosystems function, what they need to thrive, and honestly, how fragile they can be when you shake that foundational stability. We just want to follow the data and see what happens to the physical reality of a lab when the policy environment drastically changes.
So if we're going to understand that machinery, we kind of have to completely redefine who actually does the science, don't we?
Oh, 100%.
Because when you picture a scientific breakthrough, you probably imagine like a famous senior scientist.
Right, the eccentric genius with elbow patches on a tweed jacket.
Yeah, having a sudden eureka moment alone in a quiet room. But the sources paint a totally different picture. The true workhorses, like the hidden engine of modern research, are the early career researchers.
The PhD students. The postdocs.
Exactly. They're the ones actually moving the pipettes.
Yeah, I mean, the senior scientists function much more like architects. They're directing the grand vision, they're writing these massive grant proposals.
Managing the giant budgets.
Right. But the postdocs and the grad students, they're the ones standing at the bench at 2 in the morning. They are running the assays.
And running an assay means what? Physically testing whether a specific enzyme reacts to a new drug compound? Like over and over again?
Over and over, thousands of times, they analyze the raw data. They do that highly iterative, often really tedious experimentation that actual discovery demands. And the thing is, the American system has historically relied incredibly heavily on importing those specific brains from all over the world to do that grueling work.
Which brings us to the structural problem highlighted in the source material. Because our current immigration system is essentially immobilizing those brilliant minds.
It's creating a massive bottleneck.
It is. I was looking at the data from the Aspen Economic Strategy Group report, and the numbers are just staggering. High-skilled immigrants have founded 60% of America's top AI startups.
Wow.
And produced 38% of our Nobel Prizes in science. Yet the system we have for bringing them here operates kind of like a casino.
The H-1B visa lottery.
Right. The odds of winning that lottery have dipped below 1 in 3. So we are asking top global talent to just live in a state of perpetual anxiety.
Okay.
There's one line in the Aspen report that just stopped me in my tracks.
Oh, which one?
It notes that the country that built the atom bomb by importing brains now asks top minds to draw lots for the right to wait.
Wow. That's incredibly bleak. And it distorts the entire scientific ecosystem because you have to look at the mechanics of the university exemption to see how bizarre this actually gets.
The sanctuary effect.
Exactly. Under current U.S. immigration law, nonprofit academic institutions, so universities, they are exempt from those H-1B visa caps. They don't have to put their researchers through that random 1 in 3 lottery.
So as a result, universities become default sanctuaries for international talent, which on the surface sounds like a great deal for the universities, right? And maybe for the scientists, too. They get to stay in the country.
You'd think so, but the secondary effects are actually really damaging to innovation.
How so?
Well, imagine you are a brilliant young material scientist from India. You're working on a cap-exempt visa at an American university. You spend 4 years in the lab and you invent this revolutionary new solid-state battery technology.
Okay, sounds great so far.
Right, but now you want to spin that technology out into a startup company or maybe join a private sector lab in Silicon Valley to commercialize it. The exact moment you leave that nonprofit university to join a for-profit company, you lose your exemption.
Oh, wow. So you're just thrown back into the lottery.
Exactly. You are suddenly in that lottery with less than a 1 in 3 chance of staying in the country. And if you lose, you are deported.
That's insane.
It is. So as the report points out, these scientists simply settle for academia. They are trapped by the visa structure. They are fundamentally blocked from taking risks, founding companies, or commercializing their discoveries during what are usually the most innovative years of their lives.
You know, I'm thinking about this whole lab dynamic, and it's kind of like building a medieval cathedral.
Okay, I'm intrigued. How so?
Well, you can't hire gig workers to build a cathedral. You need master builders and masons. And a master mason doesn't just lay stones, right? They spend years passing down the really intricate knowledge of like how mortar sets to their apprentices.
I see where you're going with this.
Yeah, if a master mason doesn't know if they will be paid next month or if they might literally be deported, they don't take on apprentices. They don't start a 10-year project. Science is fundamentally an apprenticeship system. So structural stability, like knowing your visa won't expire, actually matters more to a researcher than offering them a massive salary.
Exactly. Scientific discovery is not transactional. You cannot simply pay someone a massive bonus to, cure a disease by next Tuesday.
Right, it doesn't work like that.
True innovation requires years of trial and error. It requires uninterrupted time, deep trust between researchers, specialized technicians who know how to maintain incredibly complex machinery, and frankly, family security.
Yeah, family security is huge.
If you are constantly terrified that a single piece of bad luck in a visa lottery will uproot your spouse and your kids, or that your funding will evaporate halfway through a 5-year study, you physically cannot focus your cognitive energy on solving complex, long-term problems.
Yeah.
High volatility is the absolute enemy of deep work.
And if high volatility is the enemy of deep work, we really need to look at who is turning the dial up right now, because the sources detail this unprecedented series of disruptions, and it's not just random chance.
No, it's very structural.
Yeah. I was looking at the domestic policies outlined in the reports, specifically the new Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE. They launched a workforce optimization initiative, and this mandates a strict 1-for-4 hiring ratio across federal agencies.
Right.
I tried to do the math on how a government agency functions when, for every 4 employees who retire or leave, only 1 can be hired to replace them. It guarantees this rapid forced shrinkage of the workforce.
Which has massive ripple effects.
Huge. Agencies like the National Science Foundation, the NSF, are preparing for potential staff layoffs ranging from 25 to 50%.
And the mechanical reality of a 25% staff reduction at a major funding agency means the grant pipeline just seizes up.
Because there's no one to process them.
Exactly. If you lose the specialized program officers who actually review these incredibly complex grant applications, the backlog grows, and new science simply does not get funded. But the disruption isn't just in future funding, it's happening to current projects right now.
This is the part that blew my mind.
Yeah, the sources report that the NIH and NSF recently canceled or suspended 7,840 already awarded grants.
Nearly 8,000 active grants.
Just stopped. And on top of that, roughly 10,000 NSF grants were flagged for potential cancellation simply because their abstracts contained DEI-related keywords like women or people of color.
Which we really need to visualize what canceling a grant actually means on the ground. Because it's not just a line item on a government spreadsheet turning red.
It's catastrophic for a lab.
Exactly. Imagine you're running a lab. If your grant is suspended midstream, you instantly lose the ability to buy basic supplies. Highly specialized technicians, the people who know how to calibrate your mass spectrometers, they have to be fired.
And the data.
Right. The longitudinal data simply vanishes. If you are tracking the progression of Alzheimer's in a specific group of patients over a decade and your funding stops in year 4, you lose the continuity.
The whole study is worthless.
Entirely worthless. And in biological research, a canceled grant literally means the lab mice die because no one can pay to feed them or maintain the climate controls. The physical and human consequences of flipping a switch on an active grant, it just devastates a lab's infrastructure.
And those shockwaves are also propagating heavily at the state level, too.
Yeah.
There's an Ithaca S+R report that highlights major legislative shifts across the country.
Right, the state-level laws.
Yeah. As of late 2025, 21 states have enacted laws restricting academic speech or DEI topics within public universities. And the researchers at Ithaca actually surveyed academics in those specific states. 29% of them reported actively avoiding certain research topics as a direct result of these laws.
Over a quarter of researchers in almost half the country are self-censoring their scientific inquiries.
It's a massive chilling effect on the pursuit of knowledge.
It really is.
Yeah.
And when you combine the federal funding instability, the forced agency attrition we talked about, the visa maze, and these state-level legislative restrictions, the cumulative fallout is just staggering.
The polling data on this is really alarming.
Yeah, a poll conducted by the Association of American Universities and the journal Nature found that 75% of U.S.-based researcher respondents are considering leaving the United States.
75%.
And for postdocs, that hidden engine of the lab we talked about earlier, that number jumps to 80%.
That figure represents an absolute existential threat to the pipeline of American innovation.
80%. I mean, think about your own industry, whoever's listening to this, your own workplace. If 8 out of 10 junior engineers or doctors or architects were actively looking for a way out, it would be a 5-alarm fire.
It would be complete panic.
Right. And while you let the magnitude of that number sink in, a quick reminder that if you are enjoying this deep dive, Claire and Horatio also offers brain candy, debate candy, news briefings, classic companions, and classic audiobooks.
So the immediate question those statistics raise is pretty simple. If all these early career researchers are looking at the exit, who is holding the door open for them?
Okay, where are they going?
Well, rival nations are reading the room perfectly. They are capitalizing on this U.S. instability by offering the exact commodity scientists are losing here, which is permanence.
And the international recruitment programs detailed in these reports are incredibly aggressive. Take Canada, for example.
They've been very strategic.
Very. They recently launched the $1.7 billion Canada Global Impact Plus Research Talent Initiative. And they aren't just offering competitive salaries. They are actively targeting top international researchers by offering massive infrastructure funds.
Like paying for the labs.
Yeah, they will literally buy you the lab equipment you need and provide accelerated visa pathways. They actually looked at the U.S. immigration backlog and created a program specifically to poach 10,000 high-skilled immigrants who were stuck in our H-1B visa lines.
And how fast did that fill up?
Those 10,000 slots filled up in 48 hours.
48 hours. That is unbelievable. And France is deploying a really similarly targeted strategy. Their National Research Center runs a program called Choose CNRS.
Okay, what are they offering?
They are offering foreign researchers something that is almost completely unheard of in the American academic system, which is permanent civil servant roles.
Wait, really? Permanent?
Permanent. They are entirely removing the anxiety of the publish or perish grant cycle. The reporting actually highlights Kenneth Long, an American physicist who moved from a really prestigious postdoc position at MIT to a permanent role in Europe.
Just because of stability.
Exactly. He made the move specifically for that structural stability, so he could focus entirely on physics rather than constantly applying for his next year of salary.
I have to say, though, Finland might have the most clever marketing pitch of them all.
Oh, the quantum mechanics one.
Yes. They launched a Work in Finland campaign targeting physicists and STEM professionals with the slogan, "Find your superposition in Finland."
It's a great pun.
It's a fantastic pun.
Yeah.
But the actual substance of the offer is deeply grounded in life stability. They're pitching a strong work-life balance, free higher education for your children, and heavily subsidized childcare.
Right, it's a holistic pitch. Finland is essentially telling these scientists, we value your brain and we will take care of your daily life so you can actually use it.
Which is exactly what the U.S. system is struggling to provide right now.
Exactly. And we also have to look at the immense scale of China's efforts. They have clearly articulated talent acquisition goals for 2035, and they recently launched a new K visa.
What does the K visa do?
It's specifically designed to pull global STEM talent directly into their massively funded biomedical and tech labs, and it offers rapid permanent residency for top-tier scientists.
You know, all these deliberate strategies, they really remind me of Operation Paperclip. right after World War II.
When the U.S. brought the German scientists over.
Exactly. When we systematically brought them over to build our aerospace programs, it was a massive influx of talent.
Or consider the massive migration of Soviet scientists to the West in the 1990s after the collapse of the USSR. History shows us that when a significant scientific brain drain occurs, it fundamentally alters global power dynamics.
Right. The center of gravity shifts.
The momentum shifts entirely. New hubs of innovation are established abroad, complete with new supply chains and academic networks. And that kind of momentum rarely reverses itself once it takes root.
But, okay, let's test the panic here for a second. We need to look at the strongest counter-argument. Because is the U.S. system actually in danger of collapsing? Or is it fundamentally too big to fail?
It's a fair question. The sources do present a massive infrastructure that isn't just going to vanish overnight. We must strictly separate survey anxiety from actual migration data. A Nature poll showing 75% of people considering leaving is a measure of current sentiment.
It's how they feel right now.
Exactly. It is not a measure of actual plane tickets bought or moving trucks rented. Uprooting your entire life and moving to another country is incredibly difficult.
Yeah.
And the U.S. still retains an unmatched foundational prestige.
We really do. I mean, we have elite private universities with endowments larger than the GDP of small countries.
We have massive industry labs in places like Silicon Valley and Boston. We have an unparalleled network of national laboratories.
I see the sheer size of that foundation, for sure. But the SSTI report pushes back hard on the idea that private money can seamlessly replace federal support.
Ah, the philanthropy gap.
Yes, people often assume that if the government pulls back, private billionaires, venture capital, and philanthropy will just step in and fund the science. But the numbers absolutely do not support that scale.
Not even close.
No. In 2023, philanthropy contributed $24.2 billion to scientific research, which is a lot of money.
Yep.
But in that same year, the federal government provided $58.6 billion.
It's less than half.
Right. Philanthropy is nimble, and it is fantastic for funding risky catalytic projects. But it just cannot support the sheer scale of the national scientific infrastructure.
And the mechanism of private capital also dictates what gets funded.
What do you mean?
Well, private investors usually require a return on investment within a reasonable time frame, so they heavily fund applied science, things like software development or pharmaceuticals that are close to market.
Ah, things they can sell soon.
Exactly. They rarely fund foundational, basic research that might not yield a commercially viable product for 30 years.
But that's where the big breakthroughs come from.
Precisely. If the federal engine stalls, the U.S. risks losing its edge in those critical long-term areas. We were talking about climate science, foundational physics, deep AI architecture, early-stage biotechnology, and ultimately national security technologies.
I was trying to visualize the scale of the American research system, and it is kind of like a massive state-of-the-art dreadnought battleship.
Okay, another analogy. Let's hear it.
You have this enormous, impenetrable steel hull that represents our Ivy League universities, our massive endowments, our history of Nobel Prizes. You have the radar and the massive guns. But the ship relies on a really complex engine room.
The early career researchers?
Yes. If you stop recruiting mechanics to run the engines, or if the current mechanics keep jumping overboard because they think the hull is compromised by policy shifts, it doesn't matter how prestigious the ship is. It is dead in the water.
That's a really good way to put it. The infrastructure remains, but the human capital that animates that infrastructure is highly mobile. The physical labs and the equipment mean absolutely nothing without the brilliant minds required to operate them.
Exact.
And this brings us to the unresolved synthesis of all these reports. The core question isn't whether the university buildings will crumble tomorrow. The question is, can a country maintain global scientific leadership if it makes the people who actually perform the science feel fundamentally unwelcome and insecure? Science is a highly competitive global market. If the United States is no longer the undisputed, most attractive buyer of top talent, the sellers will simply take their expertise to the newly emerging, more stable markets.
Which leaves you with a final, somewhat provocative thought to ponder. Building a nation's scientific infrastructure, the physical laboratories, the legendary university ecosystems, the deep cultural trust and discovery, it takes a century of sustained, bipartisan effort and immense investment.
It takes generations.
Generations of master masons passing knowledge down. But dismantling the intellectual trust that powers it, That might only take a single generation of brilliant young minds deciding to buy a one-way ticket to Montreal, Paris, or Helsinki.
The scientific ecosystem is incredibly powerful, but it requires specific conditions to function. And the climate is undeniably changing.
For more science candy, brain candy, debate candy, news briefings, and classic audiobooks, visit clarinarratio.com.